What's so #radical about so-called GuriNgai man Bradley Twynham? Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, please be aware this episode contains the names of deceased persons.
Dark people, I do quite often shake their hands or talk to them because they are the real Aboriginal people. We're not real, but it's just the way it is.
Brad Twynham's a particularly interesting variety of GuriNgai, far more suited to the world of comic books than the baffling real world in which he finds himself. Bradley seems to consider himself smart, and the people he surrounds himself with support this notion through a mixture of misplaced sympathy, befuddled admiration, and tragic deficiencies in relative intelligence. Mr. Twynham appears intent on playing some sort of game with me, in which I'm an unwilling participant, yet he disregards my lack of consent with frighteningly casual ease. When I met with most of the senior figures of the GuriNgai cult in January 2023, Bradley was away on business, so I didn't speak to him. He sort of fell off my radar. The most I knew of Bradley Twynham was when he began appearing in my GuriNgai data tranches, 2023. We've got one here. It's an Instagram post under the account Brad Twynham. That says leadership, innovation, and resilience keynote speaker. I'll quote from it now. As a bloodline custodian of the Central Coast, and a proud GuriNgai man and direct descendant of Bungaree, I love sharing culture and country for those folks looking for greater connection in their natural surroundings and learning about our culture and how to become custodians of their home. It was an honour to be with Tim Selwyn from Gira Aboriginal Experiences for a sunrise New Year ceremony and share knowledge and a wonderful experience with some Central Coast locals. Bring on 2023. And that post has 35 likes. I gave Bradley's website and social media accounts a cursory glance, noted that he appeared to be a run-of-the-mill motivational speaker brand of huckster who had recently, albeit inconsistently, begun appropriating cultural elements into his snake oil presentations. I made some mental notes and moved on.
Yes, there's always one. And so there's 5 core capabilities, and I call them radical capabilities, that I believe we need to develop in order for us to become truly adaptable in this time of tremendous change. The first is open-mindedness, our ability to absorb difficult-to-hear ideas and difficult feedback. There are people buying plots of land in the metaverse for upwards of $2.1 million. All of this points to one inevitable truth. Founders today need to be more sophisticated across every aspect of their business than they ever have had been before.
As a professional communicator, you've got to be able to connect to your audience. That's one of the things that Brad does exceptionally well. You've got to actually get into their minds, and that's how you sustain their interest and their energy.
Now imagine this, imagine if a captain talked with an upward intonation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Today I'm flying you from Sydney to Melbourne. We'll experience some bumps. Are you going to trust that guy in the cockpit of the plane? He was that lazy that he teamed up with the 2 villains of the Aboriginal spirit world, the Kookaburra and the Emu. I believe it's really important to form that bridge between our current culture and our culture of the past.
What Brad brings to the fore is his experience, his energy, and also his ability to impart those things in a way that motivates other people.
We are wired to be emotional beings, not logical beings. In fact, 80% of our brain is wired for emotion.
If you're thinking of having him as a guest speaker at any of your events, I really highly recommend it.
Thank you very much, guys. I've really enjoyed this. It's been an honour, and enjoy the rest of your day.
6 days after the publication of A Long Con Gone On Too Long on bungaree.org. Post here from Bradley says, JD, I've read in detail your stuff. It is full of holes. It is not well researched. And most importantly, it is culturally inappropriate. This is not the way we conduct ourselves culturally. Your work is full of ego and has a sole purpose of hurting good people for your own gain. In our culture, people who act this way we refer to as domalangs. If what you have said was even true, you're as bad as the people who you posit are fraudsters. I keep my invitation open to you, that if you want to come and sit on country with our men and discuss this openly, the invitation is there. I replied, ouch. Well, thank you for the feedback. Could you expand on, and then in quotes, if what you have said was even true, you're as bad as the people who you posit are fraudsters. Now, it's not so much that I posit them, I demonstrate with evidence that they are not the people they claim to be. It's not my opinion, it's the facts based on the evidence. Bradley responds, if we're to have further conversations, it won't be over Messenger or social media, it will be face-to-face on country, surrounded by our ancestors, who will ensure the truth is heard and understood and everyone has a voice. To which I responded, yeah, you're in a cult, dude. Sorry. And a couple of links to cult education resources. To which Bradley responds, I've sat with men in desert country who have not gone through the same decimation our people have, and I can tell you, based on your definition of cult, our entire culture is a cult. What? Men in desert country? Bradley's based on the central coast of New South Wales. It's as far from desert country as New York City is. Interesting that he acknowledges that what he believes is culture meets the definition of a cult. He thinks it's my definition of a cult. It's not mine, Bradley. It's the Cult Education Network's definition of a cult. That should be telling, but he doesn't really get it, it seems. Bradley responds to himself, I'm not talking about the GuriNgai culture, I'm talking about Aboriginal culture in general across Australia. Then again, the way I was taught by men in the desert. I don't know what he's up to with men in the desert, but Bradley, he claims that they're saltwater people on the coast. What does getting taught by men in the desert have to do anything? That's not part of it's as if he's saying things that non-Aboriginal people might associate with Aboriginality, but they have no cultural or tangible, real meaning from a cultural perspective. It doesn't make sense. Bradley goes on, JD, just so we're clear, I've not asked you for more. My initial feedback to you is that it is full of holes. Have you read the Flinders Journals dating back before 1803 when he did his original survey of Broken Bay? You may want to read that. Oddly, I have actually read those journals, but it was a while back and it wasn't related to this project, Bradley, because this project is looking at the digital footprint of the GuriNgai. So, no, I haven't. Well, I have read Flinders Journals, but there's no reference to the GuriNgai in them, if that's what you're trying to get at. You'll notice he doesn't pinpoint anything. He just says, have you read these books? Books by non-Aboriginal sources, I might add. But to Bradley, they're sources of culture. Telling. Bradley comments again, have you read Sir Joseph Banks' journals at the same time? I don't mean anyone else's research on it. I actually mean the journals themselves. No, I haven't read Sir Joseph Banks' journals, and my understanding of culture isn't based on Sir Joseph Banks' journals, Bradley. He comments again, you won't find them online, by the way. You'll actually need to make a request to the National Archive and go and sit in a room and read them with someone watching. Okay. He continues, if you want to know the truth, that's where the information is, and even then, it is only the truth through European eyes. Yeah, doy. I understand that Sir Joseph Banks' journals would be through Sir Joseph Banks perspective. Thank you, Bradley. That's vital to get that point across. He continues, the rest of the truth is written. The rest of the truth. So once you've read all these, once you've filled your head with all the information from these non-Aboriginal sources, then the rest of the truth is written on the pectoglyphs and in our song lines that these carvings show. If you've not walked those song lines and asked the hard questions, then all you are left with is assumptions. Okay? I'll take that as a comment, Bradley. That's your logic, and in my opinion, that's flawed. That's FLOORED, as in he spelt flawed wrong. He continues, you can't rip people down without providing an alternative narrative. What's your alternative narrative? I respond, I'm not ripping people down. I'm pointing out an obvious truth that others missed. Howie and Whitfield are grifters. Bradley responds, you are ripping people down, JD. You can deny that all you like, and you can tell me I'm in with the GuriNgai for saying that, but you are tearing people down without providing an alternative viewpoint. Bond, I started investigating as I knew something wasn't right. The resulting investigation was finding out what wasn't right. The results are published on my website. Take them or leave them. I'm not a guru, and I'm not looking to replace your fallen idols with a nice narrative. Expecting to be handed answers on a silver platter makes you susceptible to buzzwords and empty leadership. I am not your elder. And it's now up to September 15. Bradley's still going. Hey mate, just wanted to ensure your material is correct. You keep saying I'm part of an organisation, but I've never been part of any Aboriginal organisation in my life, so if you want to include me in any of your work, please be accurate. I respond, I don't want to include any of you. Your words and actions result in your inclusion, Bradley. Consider it #radical accountability if that helps. Want to tell me how you were a direct descendant of Bungaree, as you publicly claim in your appearances as a representative of? Bradley responds, here are the facts for you though. 1. I didn't even know who Warren Whitfield was until he appeared in your blog. Okay, thanks for reading. 2. I never was or never have been part of any of the companies you've disclosed in your blog, and I never will be for my own reasons, which are different to yours. I've spent decades walking this country, speaking to old people, and doing my own research. I responded, and you still fell for a gubba cult, invented by the dumbest white trash hillbillies on the Central Coast. That's why do your own research is not synonymous with cleverness. September 17th, I sent Bradley a PDF, which is the FBI arrest for fraud hearing, featuring, you guessed it, Bradley Twynham. Bradley responded, old news, mate. Bringing a book out about it next month. Never charged, never arrested. In fact, became a witness. And then Bradley responds to his own comment. Fought them, got all my assets back. I respond, it's old news and you're bringing about a book out. It's old news and you're bringing a book out about it next month. Jordan Belford, you are not. Except for the ethics and business practices. Please clean up your act before you sell more fake culture using my ancestor's name. 17th of September, I respond again to Bradley. Thank you, Bradley. I had no intention of looking into you further. Your actions, and your actions alone, triggered a deeper look. If you had a shred of culture, you would have recognized this pattern in my work, rather than merely seeking to evaluate its commercial value. Like all of the so-called GuriNgai, your actions, your behaviors have very real, very negative impacts on genuine Aboriginal people. You were made aware of this, but you just can't help yourselves. So Brad Twynham pestering me through Facebook, and then on the Along Con Gone On Too Long Facebook page, and then in the comment section of this website. All of that led to me having a closer look. This very unconventional looking, dressing, acting, character. And wow, there is so much that this man does not want to be revealed. Yet like Warren Whitfield, Tracy Howie, Charlene Leroy Dyer, Rebecca Hurd Fletcher before him, Bradley just can't resist the temptation of actively seeking my attention. Wow, that was a mistake, Bradley. Here's the first video that I found where I found out about Bradley's prior involvement in a large-scale fraud. Explain his version of events.
Adaptability is the ultimate currency.
Trying to get on the air. I'm 97, the Lincoln Avenue call. I'm checking.
Leaders need to learn to be focused, bold, and innovative. In 2008, we created the world's first cloud management platform. 5 years later, we sold it for $280 million. We had our dream home, our dream cars, and our dream lifestyle. And enough money in the bank where we would never have to work or worry again. And then suddenly, it all stopped. The FBI came after my business partners for fraud.
So far, over $1.5 million has been seized in the joint operation between New South Wales Police and the FBI.
The FBI used me to get their target. When the FBI come for you, they are fast, brutal, and invasive. Their sole purpose is to break you. I had to learn to deal with continuous change. At first, they threatened me with long jail terms. 20 years. They then took my home and my money. Within 6 months, I went from living the high life in Los Angeles to driving an Uber. It took 5 years to prove my innocence. I had to constantly adapt to an evolving situation, to make critical decisions at speed, and to maximize every opportunity. Skills that are vital to your business. Skills that I can teach your people. We are going through one of the greatest transitions we've ever gone through in the history of humanity. Every leader in the next decade will need to learn to reinvent who they are. Unwanted external forces are impacting your business today, just like the FBI. Be focused, be bold, be innovative.
White male, possibly early 20s.
This was the first I heard of Brad Twynham's previous fraud, and it's from the man himself in his promotional videos, which I have to tell you are a sincere attempt at self-promotion by Brad Twynham. They're not satire. I've had to say this so many times to people. He's sincere in his attempt. Now, before looking into the records that I could locate that would give a more reliable account of what actually happened, I made a note of the testable claims that Mr. Twynham makes in this single piece of content. Leaders need to learn to be focused, bold, and innovative. The acronym FBI. Curious. Second claim, in 2008, we created, in inverted commas, created the world's first cloud management platform. Number 3, 5 years later, they, in inverted commas, Service Mesh, that's what the company was called, sold it for $280 million. Claim number 4, the FBI came after Mr. Twynham's business partners for fraud. Number 5, the FBI used Mr. Twynham to get their target. Number 6, the FBI threatened Mr. Twynham with long jail terms. Number 7, the FBI took Mr. Twynham's home. Number 8, the FBI took Mr. Twynham's money. Number 9, within 6 months, Brad went from living the high life in Los Angeles to driving an Uber. Number 10, Brad proved his innocence after 5 years. Relevant, testable claims, and Brad's little sales pitch there. An uncontroversial claim. should there be any evidence at all to support it. Now, let's take a look and see if we can trust Bradley Twynham's version of events. Number 1. Leaders need to be focused, bold, and innovative. Maybe. But this really appears to just be a way of Brad creating content, associating his name and quote-unquote brand with the term FBI in a somewhat more positive light than the other Google results if you were to Google Bradley Twynham FBI. Which, if you want to pause this and do that now, I will not be offended, and you're in for a treat. Get in quick before Brad can put more stuff out on the internet. Put out his version of what he wants you to see if you Google Brad Twynham FBI. Number 2. In 2008, we created the world's first cloud management platform. Now, according to the LinkedIn for the company Service Mesh, it was founded by Eric Pullier and Frank Martinez in 2008. So it was 2008, but the company doesn't seem to mention Brad Twynham in regard to who founded it. Weird. This is the company's LinkedIn. This isn't my opinion. Again, this is what the company is saying. This is what Service Mesh is saying. They don't have any mention of Brad Twynham. Now, while Service Mesh no longer has an active website, records from their previous websites don't mention Service Mesh being the first anything. No mention at all of Brad Twynham. Curious. Number 3. 5 years later, they sold it, Service Mesh, for $280 million. Now, in 2013, Service Mesh was sold to another company. That company was called Computer Sciences Corp, or CSC. It was sold for $282 million US. So $2 million more US than Brad claimed. Now, this deal consisted of an earning payout, like a bonus, that would only be paid if Service Mesh was able to demonstrate certain earnings of a certain amount by a certain time. Now, this earning payout was based on Service Mesh's revenue between the 1st of January 2013 and January 31st, 2014. This is very important. Now, for every dollar over $20 million earned, Service Mesh shareholders would earn approximately $10.15 US, up to a maximum of $137 million US. Now, this earning payout was based on certain revenue generated by Service Mesh from January 1st, 2013 through January 31st, 2014, according to a legal filing by CSC lodged in late 2015 in relation to a US civil case at that point against Eric Pullier. Now, this sale, the sale of Service Mesh to CSC, Computer Sciences Corp., that took place not that long after the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, CBA, awarded an IT contract to Service Mesh. Quite a lucrative IT contract, so those are the details so far. So yes, Service Mesh was sold, but there's a lot more information that Brad's sort of combing over there. Which brings us to number 4. The FBI came after Brad's business partners for fraud. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot more to it than that. Now, first, before we even look at the evidence, if the FBI were going after Brad's business partners for fraud, how is it they were able to take possession of Brad's assets? Is that a thing they can do? No, it's not. The reality is the FBI, in a joint investigation with New South Wales Police and I believe the Federal Police, were investigating and prosecuting a case against a criminal conspiracy that Bradley Twynham was an active member of. The following account is taken directly from these US court documents. This is the evidence supporting the forfeiture of Mr. Twynham's assets. It's a bit dry, but I'll read from it now. Between at least October 2013 and the present, certain shareholders of Service Mesh Inc. of Santa Monica, California, Service Mesh, engaged in a scheme to fraudulently inflate the revenue of Service Mesh in order to generate unwarranted incentive-based compensation from Service Mesh shareholders and generate bribes and kickbacks for their accomplices. The result of this scheme was that the publicly traded company, Computer Sciences Corporation, that acquired Service Mesh in October 2013, overpaid a variable incentive payment to Service Mesh and its shareholders by approximately $98 million. Eric Pullier was the founder and, through affiliated entities, approximately 30% owner of Service Mesh, an information technology services company based in Santa Monica, California. Pullier was also the founder and owner of Tech Advisors LLC, a Delaware corporation. Andrew Goldstein was Pullier's longtime friend and the control person for ACE Inc., aka ACE Foundation, a purported non-profit entity incorporated in Delaware. On an IRS Form W-9 completed by Goldstein for ACE on May 30, 2014, ACE's address was initially listed as Service Mesh's corporate headquarters in Santa Monica, California. This was subsequently crossed out and replaced with Goldstein's residence in Beverly Hills, California. On or about January 14, 2015, after the commencement of investigations by both Australian criminal authorities and Computer Sciences Corporation, CSC, ACE changed its name from ACE Inc. to ACE Foundation. John Waldron and his supervisor, Keith Hunter, were IT executives at Commonwealth Bank of Australia, the largest publicly traded company in Australia. Hans Gilstrom was an IT consultant to CBA since 2007. Bradley Martin Lewis Twynham was a Service Mesh employee based in Australia and later California, who helped manage the relationship with CBA. End quote. So on the one hand, we have confirmation that Brad was indeed a Service Mesh employee, but at the same time we discover that rather than the FBI merely going after Brad's business partners, they were going after Brad and his co-conspirators. Remember that bonus earning payout based on Service Mesh's revenue between January 1st, 2013 and January 31st, 2014? Well, in February 2014, CSC. Now, it's important to recognize that without the $10.4 million in revenue from the CBA in Australia, that bonus payout would not have been triggered. The total revenue during the specified period wouldn't have passed the 20 million threshold. There would have been no bonus payout. So, but for the CBA earnings, there would be no bonuses, literally zero for the shareholders. To cut a long story short, Twynham and his friends bribed CBA employees to sign off on IT contracts that provided no value at all to the CBA. They were just marked up absurdly. But they did increase the perceived value of Service Mesh. So, long story short, it triggered the bonus from Computer Sciences Corp. Brad and his business partners bribed, lied, stole, cheated, and schemed. They left a very clear paper trail, though, like it could be seen from space. And then Bradley went and got himself caught, didn't he? Which brings us to number 5. The FBI used Bradley to get their target. See, this is true in a sense, Brad was also one of the targets. There were just higher priority targets than Brad. Among his co-conspirators, a bigger fish in a financial sense. The task force, consisting of New South Wales Police and the FBI, first caught Brad dead to rights before they were even able to get near their more successful targets. So how big were these bigger fish? Well, based on the available data, Eric Pulley stole $25,584,634, compared to Bradley Twynham's share of the proceeds, which amounted to, and this is all US, $935,539. Wow. Meaning the value of Eric Pulley's crime and conviction in the eyes of the state is approximately 27.5 times greater than that of Little Fish Bradley. Similarly, Waldron, he earned $1,800,000 from the caper, making the value of his crime and conviction in the eyes of the state approximately 1.92 times that of Little Fish Bradley. Only Hunter and Gilstrom earned less from the caper, but they were more distant from Pulley and Waldron than Bradley was. We can see here, again from the court documents, I'll quote, Twynham was initially cooperative with CSC's internal investigation, but departed the United States to Australia on June the 1st, 2015, without notice. In or about July 2015, CSC notified Twynham of its intent to terminate his employment for failure to cooperate with their investigation. Which brings us to claims 6, 7, 8, and 9. We can bunch all those together. Each of these are claims individually. Each of these claims individually and in total are what are referred to by those that deal with such things as consequences. The threat of jail time was more than a threat. It was a sure thing. Unless Bradley Twynham flipped, dobbed, snitched, ratted out, turned witness on his business partners. The assets that were seized were not the rightful property of Bradley Twynham or his wife, because he'd purchased them with the proceeds of the crime he committed. Not his business partners, not the FBI. Bradley Twynham. This is from the FBI's posttitled Tracing of the Illegally Derived Funds. So again, not my opinion, this is the opinion of the FBI. On March 17th, 2014, $935,539.02 was wire transferred from the exchange account to Twynham's Bank of America account. On April 11, 2014, Twynham acquired the defendant's real property for $1,730,000 with a down payment of approximately $700,000 and a loan with Premier American Credit Union of $1,038,000. The majority of the down payment was paid via a wire transfer from Twynham's Bank of America account. On April 22nd, 2014, a cashier's check in the amount of $135,395.96 was drawn on Twynham's Bank of America account and deposited into Twynham's Premier America Credit Union account number and the defendant bank funds represent the remainder of the illegally derived funds remaining in Twynham's Premier America Credit Union account as of September 2, 2015, based on the oath the plaintiff, the United States of America, alleges that the defendant's real property and defendant's bank funds represent or are traceable to proceeds of one or more violations of 18 U.S.C. 1343 wire fraud, a specified unlawful activity as defined and then there's some various American penal codes. The defendant real property and defendant real funds are therefore subject to forfeiture, pursuant to Section 18 of, and again, more United States penal codes. Which brings us to claim number 10. Brad proved his innocence after 5 years. Now, I could not find any evidence of this, or the simple fact that Brad did not prove his innocence at all, ever, as there never was innocence to prove. In fact, the case against Bradley Twynham was so strong that all of his assets in the US were forfeited to the state, and evidence of Bradley's involvement remains a matter of public record to this day. That's how I'm able to talk about this. That's how I'm able to write about this. Bradley Twynham's version is merely his version. It is not in any way reflective of reality. It's what he wishes reality was. Quite agree. But like his fellow GuriNgai brethren, why would Mr. Twynham let the truth get in the way of a story? No incentive exists that can override his need to profit, especially if he can profit from this story. Literally seeking to profit from his previous failed fraud. Amazing. From any other group, this would be amazing. I can see why he's gravitated towards the GuriNgai. It's very bad timing that he seems to have done it primarily this year of all time. And Brad continued on from there, continued posting on long long social media accounts, as well as the comment section of his website. Now, curiously, at the same time, he was impressing on his audience that he was the victim of a malicious attack. See here, he's posted on LinkedIn of all places, dealing with toxic people online by Brad Twynham. Now, what we find in here is Brad's own unique perspective on the past 10 months. I'll quote from Brad's essay here. Recently, I've had to display dealing with an individual online who's concocted a campaign not just against me, but our entire Aboriginal family group. The saddest thing about this individual is they're part of the same line of descent. Brad goes on. While I won't go into the details of what has been said specifically, this individual reached out to connect with our group in November last year, and within a matter of weeks wanted to set up a consulting business using the name of one of our famous ancestors. When the rest of the family then asked this individual to slow down, let's get to know each other a bit, well, let's just say the floodgates of abuse opened. What has followed has been months of misinformation, blatant lies, mistruths, and bold assumptions, with no fact-checking, peer review, or academic research, simply a dump of what they could find on Google to create a false narrative and attempt to tear down the hard work and reputations of those who love and stand for their ancestral country, culture, and each other. End quote. Now, when a Bradley Twynham type says he will not go into the detail of something, it's really worth your time to really look into those details. Don't let someone like Brad Twynham tell you what details he thinks are important. It's misdirection. It's like when a magician tells you to pick a card, but they know which cards they're offering. That's what Brad's doing here. That's part of his grip. I've got here, this is on GuriNgai.org. I've got under the article what's so #radical about GuriNgai man, Brad Twynham. See my interactions with Bradley, I've got them all there for all the world to see, completely transparently. You can see what our interactions have been, and you can see the volume of them, and you can see that they're usually coming from Bradley Twynham towards me, not the other way around. And it's for months, Bradley's been messaging, Bradley's been commenting for months. Ugh. But at the same time, he's presenting himself as the victim. Number 5. Bradley Twynham could have provided evidence for his assertions and timeline in his recent work in that scam an essay, but he does not. We're just expected to take his word for it. That's the sort of thing that his audience needs to pay attention to. You notice when Bradley is just making a claim, not providing evidence, just expecting it to be, taken as gospel, because Brad says. Now, Bradley, number 6. Bradley Twynham is defaming me by claiming that I've engaged in misinformation, blatant lies, mistruths, and bold assumptions with no fact-checking, peer review, or academic research. That, Bradley, is defaming. And I consider number 7. Bradley Twynham knows that the statements are false. I have presented the evidence demonstrating that Bradley knows that the statements he is making are false. Yet Bradley continues making them. And that's dangerous. That's not the sort of thing this person would do. It's not the sort of thing that anyone with any degree of reflection would do under the guise of abuse under false guises. What has made it even worse is that this individual has done this under the guise of two things. One, being neurodiverse. Two, truth-telling. There are two fundamental problems with this. The first, I have all the empathy and respect for anyone who is neurodiverse. I know many neurodiverse people, and beautiful people coming to terms with being different. Labeling yourself as neurodiverse does not give anyone the right to be abusive and narcissistic towards others. Being neurodiverse should never be a license to propagate hate and abuse. Bradley Twynham is defaming me again by claiming that my diagnosed condition is a false start. Number 8. Bradley Twynham, too, as he claims, have all the empathy and respect for anyone who is neurodiverse. I expect our many, many interactions now, which again are all fully documented, would be radically different to what they have been. Number 9. Grouping neurodiverse people into a single, homogenized, generalizable group based on one's own limited social network is not allyship. It's extremely belittling and ableist, Bradley goes on. Furthermore, it's essential to highlight that the attack extends not only to my family group, but also the neurodivergent community as a whole. Such actions perpetuate harmful stereotypes that can negatively impact the broader neurodivergent community. Secondly, truth-telling is a process of a two-way conversation between parties to agree on the truth of a matter. It is not a one-sided conversation that permits the spread of misinformation, propagating lies, and creating false narratives. End quote. Number 10. He goes on, devastating effects. The hurt and harm this individual has caused good people, painting an entire group of people as frauds, fake and pseudo-Aboriginals, has devastated all involved. Are we perfect? No. Are we constantly learning? Yes. We have made mistakes. We are human, imperfectly perfect in every way. Do we own those mistakes? Yes. End quote. 11. I would be fascinated to hear any admission of the many, many mistakes made by Bradley Twynham and his GuriNgai chums. I've not. Any evidence of accountability would be welcome. None has been found. If anyone's looked more closely at this group than I have and you found something, please send it through. But there's zero accountability in literally 20 years from any of them. It's one of the many, many, many interesting things about this group. Bradley goes on. However, to propagate an entire group of people as fakes and frauds, to take work that has only benefited the community and turn it into some kind of scam and fraud, publish private conversations and messages and nitpick the parts that create a false narrative with it, nothing more than a deeply disturbed and toxic individual. Refusal to engage in escalation. The worst part of this is every time this individual has been asked to come and sit down and talk through their grievances, grievances? They have declined with a varying number of excuses from, I don't have time, I feel threatened by you all, I don't have the money. What? Who said I don't have the money? I did not know. I did say I felt threatened. There were legitimate security concerns. Yeah, I never said I don't have the money. Interesting. Could always do with more, but that's not why I'm not meeting with Bradley. See, he brings money into it. Curious. Sorry, he goes on. You're all part of a cult. Well, you are. Yeah. It's not an excuse. That's like one of the premises of my work. You name it. The excuses continue to flow. Oh, end quote. Number 12. Bradley Twynham knows full well why I will not meet with him in person. The multiple credible threats to my personal safety by his friends, by those involved in this GuriNgai farce, they're all documented. They're all, documented within a long con, gone on too long. There's a paper trail, of course there is, and of course the paperwork has been filed. Brad goes on for a lot. I'm not going to read any more of his propaganda, but it is interesting seeing it appearing in real time. You can find it on his LinkedIn page, which is funny, or you can also find it on bungaree.org, where, but it is fascinating seeing this propaganda appearing in real time. And it's particularly interesting how bad it is. Like, it's really blatant, prima facie, just propaganda. And this is from someone who's presenting himself at the same time as an expert in resiliency, an expert in managing change, an expert in leadership. And this is the best he can do? And he doesn't see anything wrong with presenting what is clearly the best he can do. He doesn't see an inconsistency with presenting such sloppy, just embarrassing output, and at the same time claiming to be an expert in those areas. His audience can't see through that, but what can you do? At least we know what's going on with Bradley Twynham now. He knows full well what he's involved in. It's not the first time he's done this. It's not going to be the last time. This is who he is. All we can do is educate ourselves about people like Bradley Twynham. As ridiculous as they appear on the surface, what's beneath is a whole lot uglier.
You can find all the information for the show at our website, bungaree.org. That's BUNGAREE.org. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Dark people do quite often shake their hands and talk to them, because they are the real Aboriginal people. We're not real, but shame! Shame!